Welcome to the Forge Wyo Podcast, formerly known as the Build, Conquer, Repeat Podcast. My name is Ben Bylander, and with me today is Chancellor Perry and Dr. Mike Alzheimer.
Ooh, Dr. Mike Alzheimer.
Shut up, Perry. I earned it.
Yeah. So we decided that we're just going to kind of rebrand ourselves from, we did 60 plus episodes.
Back in the day, yeah.
The Forged and Wyo, or the Build, Conquer, Repeat. Now you got me confused, Ben. Build, Conquer, Repeat
Formerly
podcast.
known as.
Yeah. But we decided we'd kind of switch gears and give it a different name, because I think Build, Conquer, Repeat is still one of our slogans, and we'll talk about that later. But I think one thing that resonates a lot with our community is the Forged and Wyo. And I don't know if that's because, as being from here, we're all very proud of where we're from. Wyoming's just kind of a different breed of people. Or maybe it's just the fact that it really fits our name. You're kind of just building yourself and building a community, family within our state here. And it happens by bringing the best person that you can be to the table every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we just know that, in growing up here, the Wyoming people are just a strong, resilient people. We still have this strong community-centered focus. So, and then in starting the gym, that's what we wanted to do, is build a gym that kind of reflects that, and we can further that ideology with our gym.
Yeah, and it's like we talk about all the time, Wyoming is full of blue-collar working-class people. You have to make it here. You're not going to sit around and just be a trust fund baby here most of the time. The winters are harsh, the summers are hot, and the things to do around here are very you got to have a very high activity level to do it. Up in the mountains, hunting, fishing, everything outdoors here. We don't really have anything around town to just go chill. Mm-hmm. So we think fitness and strength and just building a person up is probably going to help with those outside the gym activities as far as everyday life goes.
And that even comes from the name Forge that we wanted to. That's what we ultimately decided the name of the gym. There's obviously a lot of tongue-in-cheek there with the fact that Chancellor built a lot of the equipment. Him and his dad would weld and make equipment. We'll talk about kind of how we started in that way. But in terms of strength training, building yourself, and even from the rehab side, repairing, rebuilding, it kind of all fit into that category where
you're
forging yourself. And,
yeah.
And then for Chancellor and I too, in our journey, it's we were paving and creating our own dream and vision and forging our own path. So,
and I think the terminology, the verb to forge is a process, right? Mm-hmm. It's not something that just happens overnight. You don't just go pick it up and it works. So it's forging is this lifelong profession, right? You can work on the same piece for a long time to perfect it. Mm-hmm. So.
And it gets chipped and broken.
Yeah.
And you have to repair, and there's this constant processing of developing yourself and improving yourself, strengthening yourself, fortifying yourself.
So, we just thought it was an appropriate name. It's we are being forged in Wyoming because of our culture, our community, just the environment here, and then and that's just a process that is lifelong for us. But before we go too much farther,
yes.
We debated if we're going to keep this tradition or not because Ben has a really sensitive nose.
Hey.
But
you got to be kind to pipes like these, and it starts with the nose.
That's true. Listen to that velvety voice he has. But we might as well start it off with a bang and give it a little shake, shake, pank, pank.
Niff, niff.
Ready?
All right, ready, boys?
Shake, shake, pank, pank.
Oh, my. Damn, Ben, is yours dead?
Yeah, it's dead. It's not bad.
I went nose deep on that one. That one's not dead. Is that new?
I think you got a freshie.
Anyway, so we decided this podcast we would talk about kind of the a reintroductory to how Forge became, because it is kind of a wild ride. And I tell, Mike and I talk about it all the time that we think we're the two luckiest guys we know, because there's no way these irresponsible meatheads and one kind of responsible doctor meathead should be able to do this. And, it's just a blessing, but also it's just like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
So, I guess you might as well start with the kind of like just where the idea came from.
Yeah, so even way before the actual foundation and like the actual gym started itself, this was an idea in Chancellor's I had back in, I would say 2018 is when we first had the conversation.
Yeah, but before that, we didn't even talk to each other about it. We just
No.
just like both woke up one night like, would it be awesome if I started gym with Michael? And Michael's like, it'd be awesome if I started gym with Chancellor.
It was weird, dude, because we were literally like, I was on my way to PT school. Chancellor back in the day was starting a Bighorn Mountain Muscle Boot Camp, right?
Yeah, free boot camp for the community.
And so Chancellor had me join in and just utterly destroyed me. It was a lot of like flipping tires, slamming hammers. Like it was in your Kurt's,
So Kurt Eisenach, my buddy Calvin's, his parents' house's pasture. I just brought out a bunch of like tractor tires and sledgehammers and random dumbbells and old crappy barbells and speed and agility cones.
It was a very Wyoming type.
It was the most ranchy.
Just a horse field, yeah.
And it started off with like 3 or 4 people, and by the end of it, I was having like 30 plus people come out.
Yeah, well, I remember too. It was just like cool because Chancellor just kind of started this. He just wanted to start kind of what we're doing now is like you could see people were like wanting to and attracted to like the style of Chancellor training that Chancellor was doing. And honestly, that was the first thing that kind of clicked off that my idea in my head is, I saw Chancellor and we ran through the boot camp. And then when I went home that night, and I had thought about it a long time, I wanted to do physical therapy, but in a gym setting. And so I was discussing with my mom and I was like, I think Chancellor and I could really do this together. Like we could build a gym and build a community. Like him and I have always kind of like
we've always been really, really good friends.
Good friends, and like we've always kind of been like team captains, leaders, and we were like we could really do this together and partner up. And Chancellor and I, we've been training partners since high school, so it's like we've always pushed and challenged each other.
We were like in a long distance relationship with our training regimen. Like every week we were trying to beat each other. We'd send pictures. We got to the point where we were posting on Instagram. We had people voting, which like on each of our pages, like, oh yeah, but did you see how fast Michael's went up? Yeah. It's like, okay, well, screw you, whoever you are. But
yeah, so just the and I've heard this quote before from like great play. It's like champions come in pairs of 2.
100%.
And I think Chancellor and I, we knew that we had the same vision and mindset. And so I was discussing with my mom, and I reached out to Chancellor, who, just as he had said,
literally the same.
After that night, was talking to his dad about the same thing. It's like, well, what if Mike and I did this together? So we call each other up, text like, "Hey, dude, I wanna have a talk."
Yeah.
And when we met up the next day, and Chancellor's like, "Okay, you go first."
Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, well." And at like the same time, we like finish each other's sentences. I was talking to my parents about, and they're like starting up a gym.
Did we just become business brothers?
Yep.
Yep.
Want to go do karate in the garage? Yep.
So, just 2 young guys. Like it was kind of a dream. We didn't know. I mean, I still had to go through physical therapy school. At the time, you were considering doing physical therapy as well.
I think I was going to college classes, just getting
wrapping up your degree, right? Your
undergrad in Sheridan. So
yeah, so it was a long off vision, but that was really like the first time we had discussed that as even a possibility.
Yeah,
and it was interesting because even though that was just like a one-off conversation, like it was ongoing still. We made like a Google Drive. We threw
every
out
week
ideas.
we like threw in, I had like 5 ideas of like what would it look like? What could we offer? What kind of classes? What kind of training style? Like, how big of a space do we need? What kind of equipment do we need? So, I mean, it developed into this, 10, 15 page shared Google Doc
Yeah.
of just, totally random we called it the dream sheet, I think is what we called it. We'd have no idea on the date or the time or whenever we would start it, but we had a dream sheet full of these ideas.
And yeah, it just kind of grew and grew. And I remember one time I even came back for a summer and was like visiting you in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And Chancellor and I were working out together, and like our eyes were just dilated. It's like
we're like frothing at the mouth, talking about it.
Just talking about like what we could do, what we could add, and
could have been all the pre-workout we took, but
no, definitely highly caffeinated.
Yeah.
A little, yeah. But I mean, what really for me, it's like, man, dude, and we were talking, it's like there's nothing that I'm like this passionate, excited about, like
never,
you know. And then the idea of like going down a different path or working for somebody else, like it didn't fill us with that fire. So it was like, this is inevitable. We just don't know when or how it's going to happen. And then when I was in San Francisco, and the reason I went there is like I looked into physical therapy because I was working at a gym in Bozeman, and the owner there introduced me to this guy named Kelly Starrett, who's like this world-renowned physical therapist. I read his book, and I was like, I want to go to apply to school there and meet that guy and adopt and build his model of like combining this barbell physio style. And so long story short, I got to meet him, I got to work for them, and like I ultimately like was in my dream kind of like job to kind of get that education and experience. And then Chancellor was even considering, because like this was such a cool opportunity, meeting somebody who was kind of already doing what we wanted to do. Like he was considering going to physical therapy over there in San Francisco and moving down there. And that was probably, I mean, on track to happening.
Yeah, 100%, right? But, so I went to Bozeman, like after Sheridan, did my undergrad, got my bachelor's in human health and performance.
Yeah.
Did a lot of coaching, did a lot of private training, worked at a huge facility up there called Prime, great people. And I learned a lot. And Prime was all about barbell physio too, kind of how we wanted to run our gym. So it was like I was trying to put myself in positions where I could learn more about how I'd want to run our gym.
Mm-hmm.
And, at the time, I just remember in my head was this overwhelming sensation to like, is it going to be uncomfortable to do this? Like moving to Bozeman, like, and going to go work for somebody like that and learn something completely new and out of my wheelhouse. Yeah, but you know what? Yes, I'm going to do it. So I just kept saying, yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then we got to the point where Mike finally came down to Bozeman for his
last clinical rotation for physical therapy school.
Mm-hmm. And we kind of just dominated that gym as far as just personality goes.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like we were right where we needed to be. The only thing that was missing is it wasn't our place. Mm-hmm. It didn't have our, character. It didn't have what me and Michael brought to the table. It was still a great place, but it wasn't us.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, after that, I tested and passed all my courses to get into physical therapy school, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And shut down admissions. And then I was let go from my job. I don't really remember what happened with you in California with Kelly.
Yeah, at Kelly's gym, during COVID, obviously San Francisco was on super lockdown with all the gyms and all that. And so they're great people. Again, like I was super glad I got to work for them. But, with the severity of like how locked down they were just accruing a ton of debt. They were trying to take care of us the best they could. They were paying us full salaries, and we were only kind of doing virtual stuff like virtual PT or virtual training sessions. But it got to the point where their gym was like $250,000 worth of debt, and I kind of saw the writing on the wall and figured like, I don't know if this is going to last, and basically just put a huge roadblock in a Chancellor's and I's original plan. And then unbeknownst to me, like while Chancellor's on lockdown himself, he moves back home, right, from Bozeman.
Yeah, so I'm banging my head against the wall because, I never miss a workout. I get sick, I'll still go to the gym. And, well, all the gyms here are obviously shut down. And the ones that weren't, you can't really just go there because everybody was worried about they're getting in trouble for staying open. So I was like, you know what, I'll just order a bunch of home gym equipment. Well, me and everyone in this meathead in this world did the same thing, and every site, Rogue, Titan, Elite FTS, all these places that you can buy equipment from was sold out. You know, they probably made a killing during COVID. So I'm like, well, what am I going to do? And my dad had this welder in the shop, and, you know, I'd welded a little bit, but I wasn't anything great. And I was talking to my old man about it, and he's like, well, we can just make it. And I was like, yeah, I guess we could, you know, whatever. And I'm not really doing anything right now anyways, you know, I'm still just got my online courses. And so we kind of price out all the metal, and we go down to the local steel yard and we grab all the metal, and we start building our first squat rack and hand drilling all the holes. And my dad's teaching me what he knows about welding. I'm picking up welding pretty good, and we ended up building a little home-built home gym in my dad's garage. And at first it was just for me, and, you know, my buddy lived across the street, Clark, and we just kind of worked out there during the pandemic, and people would walk by, or the word would spread, and another one of my buddies would show up. And finally, one of my mom's friends was like, hey, will you train me? You know, I've never lifted before. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, 100%, let's do it. You know, I'll charge you. I don't even care if I charge you. Let's just come in there. Like, give me something to do. I'm beating my head against the wall. So I started training her, and she brings her friend, and all of a sudden I'm having like 12, 15 hours of clients a day in a single car garage, you know, because it just started building. And like, not even, I mean, you saw the space. It'd be like twice the size of my office right now. Not very big at all. It was like half of a single car garage.
Yeah, with a bunch of crap in there.
Yeah, you know, I was benching off of pipe stands. You know, like
400 plus pounds.
400 plus pounds off of pipe stands and a wooden bench that I built.
Yeah.
But it was getting the job done. You know, it was just like, it was hard times. So we started building more equipment, my dad and I, when it was just kind of like, you know, I'm familiar with all the equipment and how it should move. And it was just like, him and I would just spend hours in the shop building. And eventually it got to the point where I was so busy with we would, like, when I had a gap hour, we'd pull everything back, and there was only one flat spot in our garage, because my dad has this old shop. We'd peel it all back to the flat spot, and we'd start building, and have a client, we'd peel everything back and put it there, and I'd train, and we'd peel it, whatever. Well, it got to the point we got so busy, I was just like, I need a bigger space. Well, about that time, I had got the attention from a few physical therapy clinics in town and a few gyms. I was offered jobs, you know. One would be a head manager of the gym, and one would be like a PTA assistant. And I went in, I interviewed, and I walked in, I was just like, again, this is a great opportunity, but in my mind, this isn't me. Mm-hmm. You know, I can work anywhere and, you know, present myself, but I want people to see my passion in my work. And my dad was like, yeah, you know, you probably need a bigger space, but maybe you should get a real job for a little bit. And I was just like, oh God, maybe he's right, I should save up. But then I stumbled upon the second building. So this was on Broadway Street. It was probably like 4 times the size.
Like 1,000 square feet, I think.
Yeah, this little shop had a bathroom and 2 offices. And so I was like, whatever, I pulled the trigger. You know, I didn't tell Michael any of this, because I was just like, in my head, it was something for me to do to make money while the pandemic was going on. Mm-hmm. Well, it started getting really busy. Like, I'm training 40 plus hours, 50 hours a week. And like I said, my mindset was just like, people want to come in at 9 p.m. at night and train with me. Yep, I'll do it.
Yeah, yes to everything.
Yep, 4 a.m. Yep, I'll do it. So I remember Michael calls me, and it was like near his birthday, and I was like, dude, I really think you should come home. He's like, well, yeah, I probably should. It's kind of, I could tell he was getting a little bit depressed down there in California. So why don't you fly home? I got you something for your birthday.
Yeah, so I'm all excited. I'm like, ooh, what did Chancellor get me? And I make the trip back over, and, you know, Chancellor and I are hanging out, and he wants to show me this new spot. And And so he takes me to the gym, and I didn't know what it was. Like, he's just driving me over to this building. I was like, I don't know what this is. And I literally had no clue it was going to be a gym. So he opens the door, and then sure enough, there's this like gym, and I was like, whoa. And this is like, oh, this is like where he's been training, and da-da-da. And
I built like 2 benches, 2 squat racks, deadlift platforms, like everything, the hookup that we would need.
Yeah. And, you know, we got in a workout, and we were lifting, and I got that weird feeling, like, and Chancellor brought it up. It's like, hey, man, like, we could do this. Like, I got tons of clients. I'm swamped. I need help. Like, we hadn't at all, of course, like, planned this being the way that it happened, and like fate kind of fell into our lap with COVID. And, you know, I knew, like I mentioned earlier, that the opportunity in San Francisco, while great, maybe doesn't have a future. Like, we don't know if that gym's going to last.
I also felt like a real heel when I was like, hey, Michael, I know you have this really great job working for this really famous guy, but I have this little
shop.
Yeah. You should quit your life and come with me, brother. I'll show you the path that rocks. And he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And yeah, no, and it was, and it is, it was like a scary thing to do that, because it's like, and we didn't know if like a gym in Sheridan would ultimately be like what we would want to stay, or would have, like, if Sheridan would even house like this barbell physio style of training.
Yeah.
And where we could build clientele and,
or
you know, make
powerlifting in general.
Or powerlifting. Yeah. Like, and make a business out of it and actually like thrive and be able to, you know, survive with that. But again, I got that feeling that I got when I was at that Bighorn Mountain muscle boot camp with Chancellor, and, you know, we were lifting there, and like that feeling, that fire, that passion that had been like kind of gone since, like, you know, everything happened with COVID. I was like, damn, I think this is it. Like,
yeah,
this just, it felt so right. And so, you know, obviously Chance was like, think about it, you know.
Yeah, I don't even answer now, but
you know,
I still think you should quit your life.
And, you know, I molded over, and, you know, the next day we went and we were, you know, before we left, we were going to go get some sub sandwiches before we got our workout in.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting in their parking lot just eating some big old foot-long subs and
just mayonnaise covered.
Mayonnaise all over. And, you know, I just looked at Chancellor. I was like, all right, let's do it.
I was like, you don't mess with me.
Yeah, you don't mess with me, dude.
Dude, that was really quick. You know? It's just like, it took you 10 hours to just quit your life and decide. Like, you just took a nap, and and we're just eating a sandwich.
And then we shook over a mayo-covered handshake.
Yeah, 2 greasy hands met and sitting in the car, and we're like, okay, now what? So Michael went home, and he put in his notice, and
then we were like, we got to make this real and legit, and like, we called up Michael Kleprick.
Yeah, I totally did not even make it an official business.
Oh, this was all illegal and under the table. I mean, you had a gym open during COVID. It was illegal from the start.
Yeah. I was like, how much trouble could I really get in now? So yeah, we made it official, and then
got an LLC, and
and we decided we'd go with the name Forge Physio and Performance, because, you know, at the time before Michael, I was still playing like totally out of my scope, but like people who had tried physical therapy, like Kurt Eisenach, had no range of motion in his knee. He's getting some out of just straight strength training. So I'm like, dude, the need for that physio side of this is here. So I think Kurt was probably your first client, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, actually, during that trip, I was just like, hey, why don't you work with Kurt for a day and hang out with him for a little bit? And we were just like going over his kind of protocol that you're doing, but it was in a sense like a form of rehab, because you know, he had this jacked up knee that couldn't bend and wasn't strong and super painful, and Chancellor was just really rehabbing it, honestly.
Yeah, I was just doing what I thought would work, and we got a little bit out of it, and it was the most progression he'd seen in a couple of years from it. And it was just, you know, just being a meathead.
Yeah.
You know, nothing too fancy. It was just like loading the joint and staying out of pain.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that was in September when I officially moved down here, like quit my job, moved everything away, just crapping my pants.
Just
like
living on a prayer.
Yeah. And like Chancellor and I, we moved in together in a little house on 5th Street.
Yeah.
And just paying,
the whole
like,
house was just like slanted.
And it was so tight too, like financially. And, you know, just paying, it was just paycheck to paycheck for just enough to pay for groceries. We weren't really even paying ourselves. I think we were paying ourselves under like $1,000, you know, just like literally paying rent and buying groceries, and then every penny went into the gym. And so the first few months were just literally scraping by.
Oh, it was so hard. I mean, we'd buy like a t-shirt order, And we'd be like, dude, I'm going to have to pay my bills with my credit card. Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, but dude, the T-shirt's worth it. It's going to get our name out there.
Yeah. And we really, I mean, because this kind of wasn't at all planned out, like we were just going by like the seat of our pants. Like we had no idea. We didn't have like a big business plan or model of how we're going to do it. But we would just go in from, I didn't even have clients, but I would go in with Chancellor as soon as he got there at like 5 a.m. there until 9. We didn't leave all day.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was in the back room trying to get all the logistics ready and kind of formulate a plan.
Get your license.
Well, and then, yeah, because I was in
rolling.
California and, like, I didn't know how to do that. We had to transfer everything over, my licensure, getting insurance set up. And so even at first, like, I was just doing training instead of physical therapy because I didn't even have a license to practice in Wyoming. So
and then every weekend we spent in the shop building more. So
yeah.
like people found out about our equipment, and a couple gyms in town we built stuff for. A couple people in town we built like squat racks for. So to kind of, you know, just another avenue of making money, because
supplement a little bit.
We were just building equipment, and we even sent some to some of Michael's former clients in California, which that was an absolute shit show.
Oh yeah. Trying to get that
trying
up
to ship
into
that
a pallet.
Yeah. and then like, you know, just the shipping charges and everything. Like how do you make this affordable for someone to buy? So, but yeah, we would spend, you know, we'd get done at work at 9:00 on a Friday night. We'd go straight to the shop, pound about 6 monsters, and, you know, weld and grind and work on equipment till like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah, it was obviously like it was just 7 days a week nonstop, and it just felt like survival mode.
Yeah.
But it just whatever we could do and as much as possible, and just threw everything at the wall. And
I think, and honestly, the equipment is one of the main reasons why we were able to move forward to our next spot.
Yeah.
So somebody in town found out that we were building equipment, obviously, and he wanted to start building equipment himself. Mm-hmm. Well, they put it in his ear to reach out to us because we were already building powerlifting equipment. So he called and left us a voicemail, and it was no other than the owner of our current building,
Doc Squats,
Derek Gilbert.
And
he leaves a voicemail talking about how he wants to start building equipment and come see what I am and come see what we do. And at first I looked at Michael, I was like, who is this guy, dude?
Yeah,
is he trying to come steal my thunder right now?
We were so like,
I was like, no way, dude.
We'll see. I guess, yeah.
So we set up a meeting for him, and he comes waltzing in, and he walks through the door, and he's got a West Side Barbell shirt on and a West Side Barbell hat. And like that is pretty much our theory of training here is conjugate method. Mm-hmm. You know, like a version of it, and not strictly conjugate, but never once have I seen anybody in Sheridan that knows conjugate. Yeah. Or at least reps the West Side Barbell. And here he comes walking in with a West Side Barbell shirt. So instantly I'm just like in love with him.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
and
he's also really handsome. Like Doc.
And just amazing jacked calves.
Dude,
and
the
just
prettiest calves I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I actually pulled down my pants a little bit, you know, to cover my calves, not to pull down any farther.
No.
That's not what I mean. That's not where I didn't go there. Just
purely
inadequacy
of the calves.
Inadequacy of the calves. But so here waltz in this just handsome man wearing a West Side Barbell, his long, luscious hair blowing in the wind. And he came in, he checked out the place, didn't say one word about the equipment. Mm-mm. He loved the equipment, but he didn't ask us how we're building it, what processes, nothing. He looked at us and said, I think I have a building you guys might be interested in. Because at that time, our place was pretty packed.
Yeah, by that time we were starting to get
we were having to move stuff around to use other pieces of machines.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then he, at the time, that was when we did those deadlift competitions at the Wyo Theater.
Yeah, the Cloud Peak Classic.
So
we actually came into our current building, Sheridan Ironworks, and did a promo video for the Cloud Peak Classic, which was a bodybuilding and deadlift show that we were putting on. We were hosting the deadlift portion of it, and it was just an amazing old building. Mm-hmm. And I think we might have met him briefly there.
He was there while we were doing like a photo shoot for it and a promo video, and he was just checking it out while we were there.
All the fitness ladies are just looking amazing in this building and jacked, and here's me and Michael just fat as hell, just lifting.
Well, we were stress eating and fat back
then. Powered by gas station burritos, but we're just lifting houses, just in the middle of his building. Well, he's like, I think I got a building you guys might come check out because I know you guys are getting cramped in here. So,
and he was training with you too for the deadlift comp, right?
That was
later, after that. Yeah.
He went to the next one.
Yeah.
And did it. So he got on my schedule too. He was like, let's come check out this building. So we drive up to Shared Ironworks, and I'm just like, what? Shared Ironworks? But then we pull past it to the next building.
The one next door.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's more our speed.
So he opens it up, and it's probably twice the size of what we had.
So the one we moved into after the Broadway one was about 3,000. So
yeah,
it was a triple of our
almost
size.
3 times the size.
Not quite, but yeah.
And an awesome space. Mm-hmm. So I looked at Mike and I was like, dude, we have to make this happen. So we did that, and we went and did a powerlifting meet out of our old gym. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as we were done with that,
we started getting ready and moving and and hauling stuff out. And then that's when we brought on Mason too. That was right at that powerlifting meet. So Mason is our first the head trainer that we got from. You met him in Bozeman, right? He was training with you.
I used to train Mason's father and him when Mason was like 14.
Yeah,
I don't know. He'll probably know. He was such a wuss back then. But I knew that he's. I mean, if you guys know Mason, probably seen him around the gym. He is very passionate and good at what he does. Mm-hmm. And when he puts his mind to something, it might take a little while for that mind to kind of like grind its gears a little bit, but he will get it done and he'll do it well. So I noticed this training him since he was a kid. There was a few times I used to have to have some man talks with him, just to kind of like, come on, let's go. But so I called him up on the phone before we moved to our third location. Yeah. And I said, hey man, what are you doing? I know you just graduated.
High school.
You literally just graduated from high school.
Yeah.
I said, I need another trainer. And I've trained you. I know you can train. I mean, it's going to be a rough start, but if you can show me that you can come down here and support yourself, I'll feed you clients. Mm-hmm. And he did it. He put his mind to it. At 18 years old, he moved away from home, got his own place, got a part-time job, and
did whatever it took.
To get clients. Like, that's huge, man. There's no way at his age my dumb ass could have done that.
No.
That's why I went to the military, so Uncle Sam could wipe my ass.
Yeah.
But so yeah, he made the commitment. He put in the effort, and at first it was a little sketchy. Him training people.
How old are you?
Yeah, he's just like, but he stepped up to the plate. And
it's amazing how much he learned in like that first year.
Yeah,
and even then coming over here and train with us, like how strong he got. And
yeah,
I mean, the one thing you all know if you've met Mason is like that. Like Chancellor said, he's just so passionate. He's all in. And I've always called Mason that's like one of those yes guys. Like he will do whatever, whenever, and he will make time. And how invested he is in like the dream and vision and being part of it, like it's just 110% at all times.
Yeah, and he's very good. He's very good at what he does. He's almost like a savant, like just. That probably sounds terrible. He's very, very good, and he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
And that was just like Michael saying, just being a yes man is really what we needed, because it's like we had so much that Mike and I were trying to do at once.
Yeah.
So adding more clients on top of that, where we're already at this max load, was just like, whew. And then just having Mason be able to step in there and kind of adapt and overcome, and learn to be somebody like a coach that people look up to regardless of his age, and that's huge. Mm-hmm. So Mason was there when we moved into Forge 3.0.
Yep, the one at 350 A Street next to the Ironworks building.
And that building was amazing, honestly. Like, it was just I mean, we spent so much time. We painted the walls all black. We redid everything. Finally got turf that wasn't from Home Depot.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the ones that you let your dog shit on. It's like a legit turf with our logo. And,
yeah.
We stayed in there for what, like a year? 2?
We were there from a while. We were there from like June of 2021 till we moved, obviously, to the ironworks.
Yeah.
So they were over there for 2 years.
So within that time, I'm training Doc. The whole time, I'm just looking out our front step and looking at ironworks and just drooling. Like, could you imagine if that was like a big gym? Like,
yeah, this old metalworks facility,
huge.
brick building. Yeah.
So I kept planting that seed in Doc, like every day, like, dude, like, it's Sheridan Ironworks, like the Forge and Sheridan Ironworks just sounds, I think, grammatically correct.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor or anything, but and I think we originally were convinced him to let us take the private side that we're sitting in now.
Yeah, so there was a wing of ironworks that really wasn't being used.
Yeah.
It was a scrap heap. Like,
Oh,
there was just old metal everywhere. The floors were covered. There used to be a second floor on this side that had like railway ties that were like on the second floor,
welded to a rack, and I mean, what it was at the end of the day is this side was just their metal storage area.
Yeah.
So like all the scrap metal, everything from the original was still in here. But I'm looking at the space and I'm just looking at the potential, what it could be. So kind of like unofficially, we decided that was going to happen. And we didn't know what the steps were going to take, but we knew that we had to clear all that stuff out and empty this side out.
So we were chipping away, cleaning it.
Every weekend, and now Mason's aboard, right? Every weekend we train all week. We're in here and we're chipping away at this one thing at a time. And I think during that process, we were cleaning out everything. The people that were occupying the open gym side of Sheridan Ironwork, Go Fast Don't Die, they decided that they didn't want the building anymore.
Yeah.
So Doc approached us and was like, well, guys, I don't know what we're going to do here because now this side is completely available, and what would you guys think about taking the whole place?
So this is like 3,000 square feet versus like 12,000 square feet. and
immediately I'm like about ready to say yes, and Michael like grabs the back of my collar and yanks me back, and I'm like looking at him, and he's like, and finally I'm like, but dude, Michael, we can do it. I know we can do it. And he's like, well, logistically, we'll try to figure it out. I'm like, we can do it, Michael. And Michael's like, okay, we can do it. So we decide that's what we're going to do.
So yeah, like Chancellor and I remember doing this. Like, went to his house. We just had like a big piece of paper, and like children were like with crayons, like drawing out a blueprint, drawing out a business plan.
A napkin extension, like, okay, this is what we had originally, but then there's like, we fold out the napkin. This is what you're offering us.
Yeah.
We drew with a crayon here.
and then we approached and had a meeting with Doc about like, all right, this is our business plan as to like what we'd want to do if we took over the whole space. And so we're just like confidently going over it, like all the plans, all that. And Doc was like, all right, do you guys want to do this? And we're like,
I don't know if we just laid it on thick enough that Doc was like, yeah, these guys know what they're doing, because we had no idea.
Oh, no. And we had like at the time like that lease set up, like this is what it's going to look like, this is where we're going to do it. And so we're like, you guys want to do this? And he was like, yeah. He's like, you guys are crazy. He's like, well, you're crazy too, Doc.
Yeah.
And then we sign it.
Total fake confidence.
Yeah. And then when he left, dude, we're like,
I sat in the car and I was like, Michael, what do we do? We just signed our life away. There's no way we can afford this.
Yeah, to be honest, we didn't have it planned out. We like pieced it together,
and I don't know if it was just, Doc was like, you know what, I think I'll give, he might be just an excellent gambler, and be like, I think I can see it. They're going to make it work, or we are just good liars.
Combo both.
Yeah, maybe it was a combo, but yeah, we decided that this whole building would be ours, and we proceeded on going to an architect and drawing up plans and
getting the building up to code and logistics, and
absolute nightmare. But
yeah, that was a year and a half of just like hassle and crossing red tape and trying to get that all sorted out. And and like we were just grinding like just even harder than before, like trying to clear this place out. And then Chancellor, he had to make all the new equipment. So we're like, we're more than tripling our size. So we had to furnish and get enough equipment. And we had to like pull out a loan for like getting all of the gym equipment and then making equipment that Chancellor had to build for the open gym. And we're just literally the skin of our teeth and working as many hours as possible with like clients while working on the weekends and nights, like getting the building ready. And it was like crunch time we couldn't take a day off. If we took a day off, like we'd be behind.
Yeah. And, it's burning at both ends like that is kind of like where I started to define myself as a man, like I'm so grateful that this building has absolutely changed my life.
Oh, absolutely.
It showed me so much about when shit hits the fan, what does Chancellor do? Mm-hmm. Does he like back away? I've been a procrastinator my whole life, like I just love the pressure or something, or it's ADD but watching this place evolve with the work that we put in every week, it really kind of caveats into lifting weights and building yourself and forging in general. Mm-hmm. You just get to see this product slowly be turning into your vision. And it was just, there was blood, sweat, tears in this building. Like sometimes you get so frustrated because something happened, or like the city shut you down, gave you a no work order because of something stupid. And
we ran into like every obstacle we could.
Everything. Like it was just like the world was telling us that like we need to quit, and somehow we were just like, no way. So we just watching this evolve, and just the amount of time and work, it's crazy to me how much the process meant to me as a person. So,
and I think we both had this mentality where it's like, and we really didn't know if this is going to work.
Hell no, it's really dumb if you think about where we were and then jumping into
it. But even deciding to do it, and this is what Chancellor and I ultimately discussed, like whether or not we should, is like, I just don't want to regret missing an opportunity.
Yeah, because we're scared, right?
Yeah, because like there's a doubt or fear. And then on top of that, like not wanting to live with regret, taking an opportunity that comes your way, and then doing all the work you can possible to make that happen. And then for me and Chancellor, at least, it's like, even if we didn't make it, we know we put everything on the table. There wasn't like an ounce that we could have spent more. And so if it didn't happen, like, then at least we don't have that regret.
Yeah.
And we can look back on it and be like, wasn't meant to be, but we put in everything we could.
Or also be like, this is why we failed. So this, for me, it was never an option. It was a non-option. Like this, even if it failed now, we would still figure it out, right? Yeah. But it was just like, we can look at it if we had failed and said, this is where we went wrong. Maybe we bit off a little bit too much than we could chew. But in that process, we realized that we have some big mouths and we can chew a lot if we put our mind to it. Mm-hmm. And we did a lot of the work ourselves and saved us so much money, like the sweat equity into this building.
And Doc did too.
And Doc, yeah.
Doc
and our friends did too.
Yeah.
Like Clark was in here on the weekends when I needed his help. My dad was in here on the weekend when I needed his help.
My brothers would come in. And
Nelson, Chris, like there was a lot of people that were involved in this. Mason was in here. And it had to have been like thousands of hours of labor just like put into like building this place, and from other people's too. Yeah, like even our clients would come in and help when we needed it. If we need something moved. And then we got to the point where it really started looking like a gym. The rubber was down. The walls, the brick in here were all so black. We had to sandblast every square inch of this building. Mm-hmm. And then to save money, we decided that we were going to do the cleanup ourselves, and that was a nightmare. And
the building had metal on the floor, was uneven. We sold out all of the floor leveler they had and shared, and had to go get some in Billings.
Yeah.
So we had like pallet upon pallet upon pallet of floor leveler.
And it worked pretty well. It's still kind of
it's as level as we can get it.
Yeah, tearing out and grinding the concrete, And the whole time we had this community that was with us in the other gym and has been with us, and some of them's with us since day one of me in the garage. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Tessa and Gina and all of them. Mm-hmm. And they were doing nothing but supporting and believing in us.
Yeah.
And like, if you looked at it, I had clients that I'm explaining what's going on and this is how much we're going to pay for rent and all that. And they're looking at me like, dude, you are just a ticking time bomb. Like, this is going to explode in your face. But like the gears of Forge, the people that are truly forged in Wyo and see the potential here, they never doubted us.
Mm-mm.
Our family, our friends, our partners, Lauren and my relationship, they always had our back. And I think that's what continued to propel us forward, where it's just that different breed of people here in Wyoming that were in our gym already and part of our family had our back always.
And I think too, like the fear of failing them was like even worse than ourselves.
Dude.
Like if letting down this community that has our
I'll
back
look like a jackass
that.
any day, dude. But if
Yeah.
like they have to go to work and be like, oh yeah, you go to that Forge place that just tanked, that's embarrassing.
Yeah. And yeah, so that was, and then the official, which was like a perfect start date for Forge, was May the 4th. So May the Forge be with you. Star Wars nerds, big meathead nerds.
Yeah.
May the Forge be with you.
That's a very important day. I mean, our grand total of people for our grand opening was like 200-300 people.
There's about 300 people there.
In this ironwork building that really not a lot of people have been inside.
Mm-mm.
So the owner of the building himself stopped by that day, and I didn't get much of a chance to talk to him, but you should have just seen the look in his eyes, because we shined up this place that had just been run down and beat up, and it was just kind of amazing to see him look around. And when we were doing it, we wanted to keep it as much original equipment and parts in here as we possibly could. So like the Dottie, our main centerpiece in our open gym, is a big machine press, hole machine bender, hole puncher. We kept that in there. We cleaned it up and painted it. And, if you just look up in the rafters and you see all the kind of, pulleys and gears and stuff that are just still here, and they still work and serve function. But it's just, we wanted to be a testament of like, this place was built by the Wyoming people.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it should be just preserved as much as we could.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. But the grand opening was just phenomenal.
Yeah, that was an emotional day.
Yeah. I even proposed to my fiance on that day, in front of 300 people. Total power move. So
yeah, can't say no.
She can't
it's
say
impossible.
no. She didn't say anything really. She just shook her head. But so we opened up on May 6th.
The official, that was the Monday after the grand opening.
Yeah.
And
from there,
we started adding to the team, because now we had a business where, now there's a 24/7 gym, and we needed staff. We needed more than just the trainer and PTs there. So, Ben. We had talked to Ben, I don't know, 2 years before this? Well, we even approached him in the old place.
Yeah, you guys were in 2.0 at the time that we started talking
the
about
Broadway place, about hey, we eventually might need some admin help, stuff like that. And I just don't think at the time we had the available resources to bring on a staff. Why don't you do the same as Mike did and move down here?
Quit your life, living on a prayer.
But Ben was always the person we had in mind to kind of bring on as
I just
a staffer.
kept telling Michael, I'm like, dude, I know Ben. He's an incredible worker. He's good at what he does. He's smarter than anybody here, which, I mean, that's not hard to do. We're just kind of just meatheads. But so after that date, we gave Ben a call, and we got him down here.
Mm-hmm.
And, we offered him what we could, and obviously it was enough. And, in his contract, he's required to work out twice a week with me. And he moved down here, and now he's the Forge Master.
The Forge Master.
So he pretty much runs the show now. I just work here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the real boss now. Look at me. I'm the captain.
I'm the captain now.
But yeah, he's kind of the front and the face of Forge. I mean, obviously when you walk in, Ben's the guy at the front desk, and and we've been grateful because Ben just crushed it. Like, we needed, especially with that transition, someone like Ben.
Yeah, running schedules, doing graphic designs, just making sure everything goes right around here with gym signups, events. He has the brain for that. Mm-hmm. And he's very talented in what he does. And just like Mason, Ben's a yes man. You'll send him something, he does it, and then you go ask him, you're like, hey, did you get my email? He's like, I already did it. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of just fit in perfectly for that position. Like,
yeah,
I can't imagine hiring anybody else that would fit and then be able to deal with bosses like Mike and I that are complete opposite.
Oh yeah. That's a whole deal by itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of had the skill set that was just missing in every facet, just kind of the perfect puzzle piece.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
no,
then
it was.
It's cool too because, I kind of watch, Ben and I have been best friends since
seventh grade, I
Seventh
think is when I
grade?
moved here originally.
Yeah, so seeing somebody who grown up together, Ben you played football.
Yeah, I played football for 2
But
years.
never really, he went to the gym a few times with me growing up, but his passion wasn't aligned with mine as far as the gym goes. But seeing him develop some sort of passion, or at least a tolerance for it now. Yeah.
It'd border on passion, I'd say.
Yeah, because, in his contract, he's required to work out twice a week with me just because I think it's going to benefit him. And it's like something I want to offer to all my employees, it's just quality of life improvement. But on top of that, he's more accountable than I am for that. He'll come to me and tell me, hey, it's time for me to work out. Even when I'm like, dude, I could just take a nap. He's like, no, it's time for me to work out. And two, he does things on his own now.
Yeah.
It's only been a few short months and he's off doing I just give him stuff I want to do outside and he goes and does it and then we get together and do it. So it's like he's putting in that effort of, one, just bettering himself, and two, just learning the ropes. It's cool to see the front desk guy out there crushing weights too,
Mm-hmm.
and doing things correctly, and having good technique, and looking the part.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just like whoever's sitting at the front desk doesn't really know anything about, can't offer a spot, can't help out with people who don't know how to use a machine. Ben knows all of this stuff now. But I think it's been kind of a life changer for you, Ben.
Yeah, no, it was a huge life change. I mean, before this, I was living in Billings for like the last 5 years, and I was just kind of going through the motions at my jobs, whatever I was doing, whether it was working for Wells Fargo or my job before this. It was a good job, but it had nowhere for me to go in the future. But the graphic design was a good thing for me to learn, and it really helped here where now I'm doing
100%.
all of that. Making the ads, working on the T-shirts and stuff like that. I already had a mind for like computers and doing all the organization, so that came easy for me.
Yeah.
But now, like you said, I'm working out 3 times a week. I'm going to be moving up to 4.
Yep.
Losing weight. I'm getting stronger.
Yep. Cut his hair. Doesn't look like a hobo anymore.
Gonna have to bleep part of that out.
Yeah, not homo. Hobo with a B. He still kind of looks like a homo.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
But so having Ben move down here it was huge for us.
Oh yeah, he's a keystone.
Literally, Mike and I are almost terrified sometimes of how crucial he is. Like, dude, we don't know what would happen if we lost Ben.
Oh, Ben was sick like a week ago. That was a
shitstorm.
shitstorm.
Dude, that was tough. Dude.
Yeah, I heard that was a bit of a cluster.
It was a cluster.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do your job, dude. I've never even paid attention enough, dude. That's just, and then, yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, thank God we have Mason, the only other person who knows how to kind of do it.
Yeah.
Yes, man.
And then, of course, you can't forget Dr. Reagan.
Yeah,
we brought
what was
her
it,
on.
like 3 days after?
Yeah,
Ben?
it was like 3 days within me starting.
It was time to get a new physical therapist. And we had met Reagan during the process of building this business. Her and her mom came in.
Kind of just on Reagan's sister had moved to Buffalo, so they were just on a trip to visit her sister.
Yeah.
And they just had a newborn, so the mom and Reagan were coming to visit. And they were just looking at gyms. They're both super fit into lifting. and they just stumbled upon ours. And so we met them, and, I didn't know at the time, but I just saw as two people passing through. But her mom is a physical therapist. Reagan was in PT school at the time. And so I started talking to them and telling them about like what was going to happen next with us. Like they were at the old Broadway, or not the Broadway, but the 350 Street, A Street spot. And then I just gave them a little tour of Ironworks and kind of talked about like, we're going to open up this big 24/7 gym.
He's giving a tour of the gym, and I'm in here in like overalls and just looking just grungy. And I remember they met me, and I'm just like, and they're like, oh, okay, stay out of his way. Like I'm just dying tired. But
about, I'd say like a month before we opened, Reagan texted me and was like, and she knew about our grand opening, and she's like, hey, have you guys opened a new gym yet? If so, I'm kind of interested in like, if there's a job opportunity. And I was like, when do you graduate? She's like, May 4th. And I was like, oh my God, that's the day we open.
Yeah.
And, at the time, like we were said earlier, I was like swamped with clients. We were super full. And, for us, it was kind of a leap. Like, can we bring on another physical therapist? But, right time, right opportunity. And so, like, hey, why don't you just like after your graduation come and shadow for a little bit, hang out, get to know her, see if you actually like want to work here, see if it's a good fit.
So she shows up to two meatheads for an interview, me and Mike, and Mike's, trying to tell Reagan that he really needs help without sounding desperate.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like lost in translation of all their physical therapy jargon, and immediately I was just like, Michael, I'm thinking this ahead. I'm like, she's way smarter than you. She's like smarter than anybody here, dude. There's no way she's gonna take the bait here. And we ended that meeting, and she left, and I was just like, she's like, do you guys need a resume? And we're like, no, resume? No, you're good.
I ain't gonna look at it.
You can't even read. So honestly, that's a funny story. I think during the time you were in the interview, Michael, he's like telling Reagan, he's like, I worked for this guy, introduced me to this PT called Kelly Starrett, and at first I was like, I'm not gonna read that. This sounds like some chick. And I was like, not that there's anything wrong with that, Reagan. Like, chicks are smarter than you, not Michael. So like totally like just us being us. And she walked away, and we're like, I don't know. Sounds like maybe. So I'm not sure. It's like we don't have benefits right now. Like, we just got on our feet. We're rolling. This is a prayer. But she called back, wanted a second interview to tell her decision, decided to take us up on it. And Reagan is just a different breed of person too. Like, she runs
100-mile runs,
100-miler marathons, and just, top of her class. And she's pretty much mom around here. Like,
she brings some much needed feminine
energy
here.
That was also kind of a worry of us, for Mike and I, is like, dude, we've been just working with dudes for so long. Like, how are they going to be able to hang with our sense of humor and just us being crude and weird and nerdy? And nope, she handles it all. She's great. I mean, it didn't take her long at all to build up her clientele.
No, we were so busy, and she filled up within 2 months. And, she's so competent and smart. Like, it was the easiest transition ever. Like, I mean, she's a new grad, right? So there's that, and anybody, when you're starting your career, there's a little intimidation, but she was very confident, competent. And like, since the get-go, she has just crushed it with her clients, and she's just done an excellent job.
Yeah. And she's learning, I train her. That was part of it. She wanted to kind of see how we train and how she can apply that to physical therapy. So she's one of my clients now, and she's learned the ropes, and I get to watch her make the cues that I would teach somebody. And I mean, she's a quick learner. Again, she's the smartest one here, 100%. And it would be weird not having Reagan in our Forge now.
Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah, it'd be like something's missing, clearly.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And then our most recent hire was Grant Stevenson. He's our new trainer. And he did the Chancellor Perry approach. He just walked into a gym and was like, hey, I need a job. Do you guys need another trainer? And I was like, who is this guy? And he like just moved here from California. I know everybody's like, he's from California, but dude, he is like, he fits in so well. And he's like very personable, which that's 90% of the job of training, is making it fun. He's got good energy, and like Ben said, he knows how to make people strong, and he knows how to make people mobile, which I don't know how to make people mobile, but he does a good job at it.
He's got a lot of background and experience, like speed and agility, conditioning drills, and he brings a different flavor and skill set that, which is so cool because everyone kind of does here.
Yeah, that's the perfect, right? If it was all just clones of me and you, it'd be like, okay. But like, with our vision of form with Forge, we wanted every form of strength, every form of to feel welcome here. Mm-hmm. So it's cool seeing him get more clients. If you guys know anybody who needs to get in, his schedule it's filling up, but he's still got availability. Yeah. And he's a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
And he's doing a really good job here. So
and it's just wild, like, here we are, and like not even 5 years into it, and now we have this team, this family.
Yeah.
And and Chancellor and I have talked about multiple times how grateful we are. Like, we just have a bunch of rock stars. Like, there's not one person that's like not vital to where we are and like what we've done. Yeah. And I think just the energy, the passion, and the people that are here, like, it's just, we wouldn't be where we are without the people that have been on our team now. No. So now it's just like, for Chancellor's eyes, like, this isn't our dream. Like, we want to, and we are planning on, like, having everybody be part of it and build a future here and have opportunities to grow.
Yeah. And also on top of that is just how grateful we are to be able to do this and give back to a community who raised us. Yeah. We've trained our own football coaches who got us into lifting. We've trained our families and their friends who fed us and sheltered us through tough times, or during 3-a-day football training, or the professionals in town that take care of our families come here, So it's just a blessing to be able to give back to the people. And like, it's going to sound kind of just like stereotypical, but like, I don't think people understand how good that feels when you're able to provide service, like a service that people want and need for the people that you care about, your own community.
Yeah, like we said before, we didn't know if and how this could take off in Sheridan, but it literally became the perfect opportunity, the perfect place, and just the people we've met. And like Chancellor said, the fact that, it's one thing to start a gym in kind of a random spot and do business somewhere, brand new where you don't know anybody. But the fact that we can have these connections and these relationships that are so much deeper, and what we're hoping to, and, we're building now is like something that benefits Sheridan, gives back to, and it really became like more of, and it still is a passion project, but now it's more of like from gratitude and wanting to serve and give back to this place that gave us so much.
Yeah.
So the fact that we can kind of live out and build this vision and dream while simultaneously giving back to the people that like helped us get there.
Yeah, that's unreal.
Yeah, and there's nothing better, really. Like, I wouldn't want it any other way. And there's like no way that this isn't forever our home base and where we want to stay and be and thrive forever.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we wanted to start the podcast up again, was, on top of the services that we're doing and the stuff that we're giving back to our community, we also want to share like information. We want to bring in like people that have different outlooks or different professions, just the rock stars that we have in our community right now that we maybe don't have a voice or a way to get out there, but also just to like interact with our culture a little bit, our community.
Yeah, it's just another way that we can kind of serve and give back.
Yeah, and it's like, moving forward with our podcast, obviously we're going to be talking about what's to come with Forge, like expansion or more equipment, or but we also want to, have a base for education as well, live, learn, and pass on, the Elite FTS slogan. Mm-hmm. So, talk about lifting, talk about daily life, talk about motivation, talk about family time, things that we're learning as we're going. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's a a good outlet, and it's just something that will provide more value for anybody who decides they want to know what Forge is about and join the family. Because at the end of the day, I have so many people here approach me and tell me thank you for making this, because it feels like the least intimidating and most welcoming gym they've ever been to, which is obviously understandable. There's Dungeons and Dragons and Star Trek and
Star Wars and
Lord of the Rings on the wall. Like we're just jacked nerds at the.
And what it became is just like, this is us. This is why Chancellor and I ultimately decided we need to do this our way and on our own, because it's like we wanted to and have put all of ourselves into it. Like, this is us. This is our dream. These are the things we care about. And, that's why I think people have a sense of like, you can just be yourself here. And, we're not hiding or acting in a different way. Like, this is just who we are. And I think it gives people that opportunity to kind of like let their guard down and be themselves, because we're just authentically like nerdy, stupid. Like,
we just wanted to break the stereotype,
like,
like we want to break the stereotype a little bit. Where just because you're stronger than somebody or you're in better shape than somebody doesn't mean that you're any better than that person at all. So it's like we're all in here for the same thing. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a hobby. Mike and I are lucky that our hobby aligned with how we make money, but this is something just for you to better yourself and grow and forge yourself into the best person that you can be. And that's not, we don't want a group of elitists. We don't want a group of people that, hold their nose up high because they go to Forge. We want a place that's safe, somewhere they feel comfortable, somewhere they know that they can come in and everybody's on their team. And that's, it doesn't matter if you play Dungeons and Dragons on the weekends, or you watch Star Trek every night, or whatever the nerdy thing you do. Like, some of my clients are super nerds and everybody's a nerd too. That's the thing. Don't get this twisted. Everybody is nerdy at one point in their life. Even hunters are nerds.
Yeah, it's hunting.
Yeah, you guys are nerds too. Think about how much money you spend on hunting gear and all the stuff you do for hunting. Nerd. Just because I like Star Trek and Dungeons and Dragons and sometimes video games. But you're all welcome here.
Yeah.
And just embrace the nerd, but that's kind of what we wanted, was break that stereotype. Strength at the end, no one cares. I could bench 500 pounds, which is like, top 2%.
Oh yeah,
for less.
More. Yeah.
Of the world. I'll get 50 likes on Instagram. I post a selfie and get 100. Nobody cares about how strong you are. It's just a hobby. It's just, we're just here to be better. That's it. At the end of the day. But I think that pretty much covers our whole story. Next podcast, we'll talk a little bit more about what's to come in the future. Although one thing that is coming in the future, and it's the first time Sheridan has ever had one to my knowledge, is the Wyoming State Championship of Powerlifting, the USPA, is going to be held here in Forge with 60 lifters, which is big. And that's like crazy that we have the space for that, because like I don't ever remember there being powerlifting in Sheridan.
No, there hasn't. This is the first.
And now we're going to be home base. So that's something to be excited for. And
that's happening on May 5th?
May 3rd.
May 3rd.
May 3rd.
3rd, yep.
And so come in, support. I'm sure there'll be vendors and food trucks and everything a fat powerlifter will like. And support the fleet. Like it's going to be a good time. And I think even if you have never experienced powerlifting, it may not be interesting to you, watching these athletes on the platform will change your perspective of the sport a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's not a team sport. Everybody is there to support each other. It's just you against you. And it is the most positive and fun thing that these athletes can do, because no one, like I said, no one cares how strong you are. They just care that you're putting yourself out there and you're pushing your limits. And that's a pretty amazing feeling as a competitor. where there's no one out there that's the enemy, right? Like most sport, there's an enemy. This one, everybody's there for everybody. So just being a part of that, I think if you have any interest in it all, come by and just watch, because it'll be life-changing, and maybe it might, spark up some interest in powerlifting too for you.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
I think that's about it, really.
Yeah.
We'll just go off with the original sign-off, because it's still written all over the gym. So at the end of the day, build yourself, conquer adversity, and repeat this daily. Do this, and you will live a successful life. Punch the mic.
This has been the Forge and Wyo podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and look for us on Spotify and YouTube.